to yet another interesting episode of the Inspiration Note, brought to you by myself, Thomas Malonda. On this episode, we're so honored to have a great person whom you're yet to know in a while. Before I introduce her, if you've not, please remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Simply type in Inspiration Route and click on the follow button. You can also go to YouTube, tap on the subscribe button, and you can also find the audio versions of all of these interviews on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. So, the person we have today is a social entrepreneur, a public speaker, a business and personal coach, a writer, and she does many other things that we are here to find out. But in a nutshell, all that she does is to help people be their best versions, to be unstoppable. So, all of you viewers, please help me welcome Noeline Kirabo.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you, Noeline.
It's a great honor to be here as well.
Awesome. I hope that the conversation we're going to have is going to transform multitudes of lives that are watching us today.
I believe so.
Awesome. So I want us to start from a statement that you make in your book, Finding Your Significance.
All right.
You mentioned that we were created for a particular assignment on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
and if we do not accomplish that assignment, it's never fulfilled. So when I read that statement, and when I think about it, I think about one thing: purpose.
Yeah.
And I've come across many people who do not know what their purpose is. They ask you, how can I know what my purpose is? So in your book, you bring it out so well. I gotta commend you for that.
Thank you.
So do you mind walking our viewers through how they can discover their purpose?
Sure. So I would like to, first of all, reaffirm the first statement. Purpose is something we all have. Oftentimes when people think about purpose, they think about something that is out there, something that they need to discover, something that somebody needs to give them, or something that they need to kind of acquire from somewhere else. And I personally believe that for every human being, you are created for a purpose. You are created for a reason. There's nobody that just showed up on earth. Well, whether it doesn't matter the circumstances in which you were born. You could be a wedlock child, you could be a rape child, whichever way it was, you are not a mistake. And so it starts from understanding the fact that I am not a mistake, because a lot of the reasons people struggle with purpose is because they feel like their circumstances determine their value. And yet at the end of the day, you have innate value as a human being.
Yeah.
And so one, you understand that you are created for a purpose. You didn't just land, you didn't just show up. And purpose is not out there, it's within you. It's something you've had all these years, and that's why we talk about discovering. So the thing about discovering is that something is already been there. You're not creating. That's why it's not create your purpose. It's discover your purpose, find your purpose, because it's been there, but now it's just coming to conscious awareness of who am I, why am I alive today, what's my reason for being. And in a sense, that's what purpose is. And when we talk about understanding your purpose or discovering your purpose, it's going back inward. So it starts with asking yourself as Thomas and say, okay, as Thomas, who am I?
Yeah.
Let's start with the basics. It's interesting that that's one of the simplest questions that makes people feel very uncomfortable. Be it in an interview room or conversation, when you tell people, tell me about yourself, suddenly people become so uncomfortable. And I always find it amusing because I'm thinking, you have lived with yourself all these years and you still have no idea. But I'm also aware that, especially like in Uganda, in Africa, a lot of their education system is about cramming and taking it in.
Yeah.
We don't look inward. We are constantly consuming externally. So it starts by asking yourself, who am I as a person? Think about your skills, your talents, your passions, your values as a person. And then purpose is oftentimes going to be at the intersection of your passions, the things you care about, your abilities, skills, or competences, and then the opportunities. So when you think about purpose, because if you, in the world of innovation, if you come up with a great design, but there's no need for it, you have failed. So that's the thing. When we think about purpose, I'm a Christian. I believe we're created by God. So God is not a failure. He cannot fail at designing. So when he designed Thomas, he had something in mind. So we need to figure out, why was Thomas created the way he was created? Why are you positioned where you are positioned? And so when you identify the things you care about, your passions, when you identify your skills and your talents, and then now think, how do I use these things to serve the world?
Yeah.
So purpose is about service. It's about making the world a better place. Where we miss it is when people think purpose is how am I going to make money out of it? You have missed it. Purpose is about serving, is about the greater good that we can create and bring into the world. So just by looking inward, your skills, your talents, your passions, the opportunities, you oftentimes find your purpose at the intersection of those things. And I like to say, don't wait to have the big picture. Start somewhere. Take baby steps, because in the space of coaching, sometimes you have clients who are like, oh, I am not doing anything because I've not yet discovered the full, picture of what I want to do. And I like to say, what are you good at? How can you use your skills and talents to serve other people? Start taking baby steps, and purpose will become clearer as you take those steps.
Awesome. So building on that, there is still something you've mentioned in many talks that I've watched. Something that says we do not start living, and we are living inside out.
Yes.
Which is it can be confusing for people who hear it for the first time. Can you dig deep? I know you've hinted on looking into inside oneself as we're talking about purpose, but what is this whole thing of living inside out?
So the thing of living inside out is very closely related to purpose. So what I mean by living from the inside out is where your life, your decisions, the things you do are basically driven by something deeper than the external forces. In essence, you are designing your life, you are not being reactive to life. So living from the outside is where you're constantly taking the shape of your environment, constantly taking the shape of your circumstances. So you're reacting, you're responding. And so who you are today is determined by where you are and what's going on. Who you are tomorrow is shaped by where you are and what's going on. Now, on the flip side, living from the inside is where I identify as a person. One, my purpose. I'm very passionate about purpose. So you hear this one over and over. So what's my purpose? What's my reason for being? My values. Because then values dictate how I live, why I do the things I do. And that helps you to then develop your mission statement. And all these things, I've done videos around them on YouTube. So in case you're wondering, okay, where do you find all this information? There's lots of information out there. But if you want a guided process, there are YouTube videos around that. So my purpose, my values, and my mission. That sense of clarity is what then helps me to decide. So when I find myself in a situation, for example, I have sometimes lots of opportunities showing up. I don't go everywhere. I don't do everything. Not because I can't, but because not everything is beneficial. The alignment for me is it in alignment with my values? Is it in alignment with my purpose? So that's what I mean by living from the inside out. I am not responding to, oh, Thomas gave me an opportunity, we go. Thomas says we go. No. It's not that way. It's about, does it fit into the big picture? Does it align with my values as a person? Because if there's no alignment, then I'm going to be contradicting myself. Who I am and what I'm trying to show up as are two different things. And so that's why you find people are conflicting, or people look at you and they're like, the person I met the other time and the person, like, are you the same person? And that's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be the same person in every environment. And I'll give you a very quick conversation I have with people around, so I do the mentoring program. And one of the questions ladies ask is, so do I have to have a standard bio? Do I have to have a standard CV? Or do I edit it according to the environment? And my question is always, are you the same person in all these environments, or are you a different person? And they're like, oh yeah, of course it's me. And I believe in you having a defined version of yourself, that then who you are defines everywhere you are.
So what's the role of environment in that? Because when you mention us having our values, I believe that the social environment we choose to live in, probably sometimes we do not choose, it's going to have a great effect on the things we take as our values.
You see, I'm about to bite my tongue on this one. So environments condition us. That's the word.
Okay.
Environments condition us, but they do not make us. So values are innate. Values are principles. And I like to say, when we think about values, it's not, because oftentimes when you ask people about values, like in interviews, interesting thing about Ugandans that I have learned, when Ugandans are lying, they look up. So in an interview room, you ask somebody, what are your values? They look up, I'm like, whatever is coming is not the right thing. And then people pick up all these words: integrity, hard work, excellence, and it means nothing. Because at the end of the day, your values are your default setting. And values, if you want to understand your values, think about how do you respond to situations. When you value time, and I show up 3 minutes late, and you are furious, and I'm thinking, the Ugandan in me is thinking, 3 minutes, like seriously? And you are not furious because of the 3 minutes. You are furious because I violated a value.
Yeah.
So the quickest way to understand your values is by evaluating how you respond to situations. Things you value, things that break your heart, things you can't stand. And then that begins to help you understand who you are. Like when I find myself angry, I stop and ask what value has been violated. Because it's not the situation, it's an internal violation. And so even in an environment, when I find myself in a situation where I didn't choose to be, the person is still intact.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I shape my environment. I'm sure you have seen the story of 2 blind men that were in the hospital. And they had this window, and no, they were both sick. The one sleeping in the window is blind, and the other one has sight. And so this guy, the one that sees, keeps asking the guy at the window, tell me, what do you see? And this guy paints a very beautiful picture. There's a park, the sun is shining, and there are flowers, and there are all these things. And then this guy dies, the blind guy. And so this guy, because of what he had been told, wants to move to the window.
Yeah.
And he realized there was nothing. When he got to the window, he realized it was just a concrete wall. But this guy had perspective. So that's what I mean. When you discover you shape your environment. The environment doesn't shape you, but it can condition you. That's for sure. And that's why the role of personal development, mentoring, coaching is becoming very, very profound, because for you to break shell from that conditioning and then discover yourself, unlock your potential, somebody's going to create another nurturing environment.
So building on that, let's talk about looking for significance in the wrong places. And I want to tap into one of your personal stories, one that you bring out in the book, Finding Your Significance, where you mentioned that you didn't grow up with your dad. Then eventually you meet him in the hospital. A few days after that, he passes on, which greatly affected you. And during that whole battle you were going through, you found yourself looking for significance in the wrong places.
Yeah.
So I want you to dig into that statement, like which ones are wrong places to look for significance? Because I know many people watching us today could be in the same lane. They think they are on the way to discovering themselves, but they are in the wrong places. So please provide a guide on how they can come out of that.
So when we talk about finding your significance and looking for significance in the wrong places, I'd like first of all to acknowledge the fact that pain is real. And in many ways, pain drives people to do crazy stuff, drives people to do outrageous stuff. It's so easy to judge people when we don't know where they're coming from. Coming from a psychological background, it helps me understand when I see young people do the things they do, because oftentimes they have a pain, a nagging pain. They don't even know that pain sometimes, or they just don't want to deal with it. And so you begin to feel the void. So that's finding significance in the wrong places. And in my book, I talk about the fact that oftentimes bullies are the most hurting people, because they feel like putting other people down helps them feel better about themselves. And it's true about people that struggle with their esteem. They try to find significance by putting other people down. And that automatically makes them feel like I'm better than the rest of you. And so for you to actually find your significance, you've got to embark on that journey of healing. If you have gone through things that have hurt you, that have broken you, there's a void, there's a pain, instead of covering it up, find help. In this time and season, mental health is very important. And we just had a discussion this morning on a friend's wall about how we are fooled by the fact that people are posting certain things. And I see a post and go like, yeah, Thomas is fine. I mean, he just posted something, he was just having a great breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't know when you had that breakfast.
True.
I don't know if you're actually in that cafe having the breakfast, but I assume you did and you're fine. And so going beyond the fact, and one of the things that someone said is the people that are seemingly the strongest are the people that are breaking.
Mm.
Why? Because they use social media as an emotional outlet. And actually, somebody came up in that conversation and said, I am actually one of those people. When I am hurting the most is when I put out the most hilarious post.
Mm.
So when we talk about finding your significance, it's going in, digging in. And for many of us, it's painful because of the things we've gone through. So we cover it up. But until you deal with your pain, until you deal with your wounds, you cannot unlock your full potential. You cannot fully live a significant life if you are trying to be somebody else. If you are trying to run away from your skeletons, you've got to deal with it, and then now you can come to a place where you're living authentically, you're living whole.
Besides what you've mentioned, healing, I would like you to share other tips that can help people who are in low moments to come up. And I'm drawing this from still your story. When you were 16 years old in hospital, a doctor made a statement that you wouldn't make it past 18 years old. I'm sitting with you today.
Yes,
which means that you was wrong
way
about
above
that.
18 years.
Exactly. And there are many people watching us today who are suffering from those statements, which Joel Oyston calls the facts of the world.
Yes.
So, and actually you mentioned also an example of a girl called Esther, whom you found one time. She was having suicidal thoughts, and you managed to talk to her into being a great person she is now, transforming lives. So for anyone watching us today who is in their low moment, probably somebody has told them a statement which seems like a fact. You know, like in our culture here in Uganda, especially for the ladies, when you clock 30, statements begin coming up from society that, hey, you don't have kids, you're not married, you're doomed. So you find people struggling. I actually have friends who are struggling with that. So that's just an example, but I know there are other people who are being affected. How can they get out of that and be their best versions?
Awesome. That's very interesting, Thomas. So words are very powerful. Words are powerful. And unfortunately, many people don't know how to use their words, especially in moments of anger. You cannot just lash out. Now, there are people like me, a word can linger on my mind for years. And there are many people like me. So as we think about how we use our words, especially, let me start with the parents. If you're a parent and you're watching me, please, please, please tame your tongue. Because you are the first small God, small g, that your child will ever have. Everything you say is absolute truth. There's nothing that breaks my heart when I see a parent make negative statements about their child. Like, I'm thinking, are you the mother? Are you the father? Like, what are you doing? That's a prophecy. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to see in your child. So let's them at times. And for those of us that have gone through a situation where somebody has said something and you can't go back and undo it. But you've got to find your healing. It starts with recognizing that it hurts. The fact that it actually still hurts means it's a fresh wound. You need to deal with it. There's power in things we can do. Find a counselor, find a mentor, find a coach, whichever of those you can find to walk you through. And the whole journey of healing, allow yourself to go through the process, heal, and then discover you. So when you heal, you've got to replace your internal dialogue. Because we're constantly talking to ourselves, replaying all these words and reaffirming or consolidating the things you already know. So you've got to change your internal talk. The other thing that works for me is books. Books are powerful because they open you up to a new world. You begin to peep into other people's perspectives. You begin to learn about yourself. And so if you're not the reading type, today we have lots of audiobooks. We have YouTube is flooded with all kinds of books. Find inspirational materials that help you affirm yourself so that you begin to change your internal talk. The other thing that is so powerful as we talk about words is also what we say about ourselves. Like say if I'm interviewing you and I'm like, so tell me about you, and tell me I run a small business. I'm like, what? How am I supposed to help you grow your business if you think it's small? Sorry for people who don't understand small means like very little. And so what are you saying about yourself? I believe in the power of mantras, daily affirmations. Wake up and speak over your life. Because over time we are allowing people to speak over us, but we're not speaking over our lives. So what are you saying about you? Change what you're saying about you, because it affects. There's a whole lot of research that shows how what we tell ourselves affects our emotions, triggers something in our brains, and these things become a reality. Just like common example, you tell yourself, I think I'm sick. You're going to start feeling sick in a very short time.
Sure.
And you could even go to the hospital and really be sick. But you triggered something. So it's the same thing. Think about the areas where you're struggling, the areas where you're hurting. Do you want to begin find affirmations that begin to help you change? And if you really need somebody to hold your hand, find a mentor, find a coach, find a therapist or a counselor that can walk you through that healing journey. Don't drown yourself in all the negative things. Whatever it is that you're trying to use to feel that pain, it's a dead end. It's not worth it.
So, talking about embracing one's uniqueness, we live in a world of conformity. If Noeline is doing it in a particular way, I want to do it the same way. And I want to still dig into your story.
Sure.
You mentioned at a particular time in your life during high school where your whole family was good at mathematics.
Yeah.
You weren't. So you suffered with a problem of attitude and perception, and it was until you changed your perception that you found out that actually I'm good at reading and writing and they're not. So you embraced your uniqueness, and that birthed your greatness.
Yes.
So can you talk about that to the people watching us today? How they can overcome those chains of conformity, societies that they are in, such that they can move towards the people who are within themselves that they've not discovered yet?
I'll start by saying there's greatness on the inside of you. That's a given. Whether you see it or don't see it, it is there. It's like saying there's a gold mine over there. Whether you dig out that gold or not, it doesn't make it any less. It is what it is. And that's the same thing about our potential. You are what you are, and you need to recognize it. There is power in uniqueness and being different. And I know that many of us in our upbringing, our family settings, the education system, we've been made to believe that if you don't fit in, then you're an outcast. The book, one of the books that I've read about being different that really, really changed my life is The Outlier by Malcolm, I've forgotten his second name, but it's called The Outlier. And it basically helps you appreciate the fact that everything that is out of the normal, every experience matters. Everything you have gone through is designed to help you fulfill your purpose. It's designed to help you be the person that you are. You just have to step back and appreciate it. Why am I different? Instead of asking why me, we should flip the question and ask why not me. Okay, if everybody is doing it, then what else can I do differently to support them? I think it was the late Miles Monroe that said, you are created an original, don't die a photocopy. And that for me just broke the chord. I'm thinking, what? Can you imagine? You are created an original and you want to be a photocopy, because every time you try to be somebody you're not, you're actually a photocopy.
Yeah.
And we all know that if you've looked at two documents, an original document and a photocopy can never look the same.
Yeah.
So meaning the rest of us are looking at you like there's something fake about you. You're the only one who doesn't see it because you're the photocopy. But the rest of us can tell that you are faking it. You will succeed, you will thrive, you will excel when you embrace your uniqueness, when you embrace your path. And allow me to say, it's scary. It is scary. Being different is scary. It is damn scary. And the thing about it is, every time you step into an outlier experience, people recognize it.
True.
First, they will shoot you. Like, get back, you're off, you're off the road, come back, you're off grid and what? And they'll be like, that sounds cool. That feels cool. How does it feel to be on the other side? So when I think about leading, when I think about experience, being influential, it's not about competing with the masses. It's about finding your path. Finding what makes you different, because that's what you were created for. There are things, Thomas, you can do that no one can replicate. I can copy how you do it. I can never copy why you do it.
Yeah.
Or your drive. There are things I just can't replicate. And so sometimes you're so scared of, if I try to do something, people are going to copy me. Let's get off that track. Like, competition is healthy. And I like to say, if they're copying you, dude, you're doing well, because you're setting their pattern and they're actually following. So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you feel so insecure in the fact that people can replicate who we are, it's a lie. Someone can tell this message, you can never be Noeline. That's the thing. Nobody else can ever be Noeline.
Yeah.
We can actually have the same names, like Noeline Kirabo and I'm Noeline, but our DNAs are different.
Sure.
My persona, my drive, my motivation, my energy is going to be different from everybody else, and that's the uniquest thing I bring into the room. Talking about the marketplace, people pay you for the value you bring. Now, nobody values a duplicate.
Yeah.
The reason why people pay heavily for iPhones is because they're not duplicates. The reason why Technos are a little more affordable is because we have all this duplicate, right? So there's something about being original. You set the pace, and people who appreciate your value will actually come to you.
Yep.
So it's not about getting the crowds. It's about leading in your way and in your path.
So let me move you from that area and take you to the value of having mental visions in our minds in line to moving towards where we want to be. And I want to do it with the example you used initially of the guys, the blind man, the one who could see, the one who told the blind man that, hey, this place looks amazing. Yeah, there was nothing. There was just a concrete.
Yes.
Until when the blind man came after this guy had left, he found that there was nothing. So in line with that, there is something that you use a lot with your mentees, which is the vision board.
Yeah.
I actually found about it from Percy, who's my colleague.
Yes.
So she told me about it. Actually, that's when I knew about you the first time. She was like, oh, there's this thing. It works like this. And then I checked the video out on YouTube where you're talking about, and I saw that it was more around visualization. So can you talk about it and how the people watching us, after noticing your potential, the greatness you have within you, in terms of growing into the next level, I think the vision board plays a very huge part in that. Can you talk through how they can utilize it?
Awesome. Vision boards are powerful, powerful. And yes, I will say it again. All this information. One of the reasons why I do, I read a lot. And I realized that in Uganda, we still have a very low reading culture. The reason why I started doing YouTube videos, instructional, beyond just the motivation. I know motivational speakers have been shut down a couple of times, like, oh yeah, guys, we've had it, we're done. And so I moved into a space of an instructional space because I'm a trainer, I'm a facilitator, I love teaching, right? And so I realized that with all this knowledge I was taking in, I could bring it to a space where people can actually begin to interface with this knowledge. And so that's why I have these instructional videos, basically guiding people through how to develop these different things. So the vision board, the power of a vision board is, there's so much power in visualization. The fact that if you can't envision it, you can't achieve it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we have all these, I call them wishes. People think they're goals, but they're wishes. I want to be rich. What does rich look like? You want to be famous. What does famous look like? Name it, put a goal, put a measure to it, put a timeline to it, like define what is it going to feel like. So the thing about our vision board is that oftentimes we have all these things we want to do in our minds. Now, we all know that our minds have limited capacity. We forget. Yeah. So we don't even like to write down things. And the thing, there's all this research about visualization, the fact that every time you internalize something, it goes into your subconscious and your mind begins to work around creating or manifesting whatever that is. And in research, it's been called the law of attraction. There's a whole book and coaching system and all that about the law of attraction. And so when you talk about your vision board, I like to ask people, and this is a question that one of my mentors asked me in my young years, and they asked me, so where do you want to be 5 years from now? You know, it's easy to guess it. 10 years from now, you're like, okay, this is what it looks like. 20 years from now, you're like, now you're starting to sketch. 50 years, I was like, but dude, that's so complicated. Like, let me be. Then the guy stretched it to 100 years. I said, why would I be thinking about 100 years of my life? But that's what legacy is all about. Yeah. So when you think about your vision board, it's not just what do you want to achieve, because people think about all the things they want to have. I want to have a Lamborghini, I want to have a beach house, I want to have that's great. Then who do you want to be? Because for you to achieve, you've got to become.
True.
So who do you want to be is where I like to help people think about, Thomas, who do you want to become? Think about the attributes, the character, and the things that you want to develop. And then I also feel like I said, purpose is about people. It's beyond you. Yeah. So how do you want to make the world a better place? How do you want to impact the world? What's your footprint? And the reality is, at the end of the day, people forget the house you lived in, the car you drove, and all the suits you had. They'll remember how you changed their lives. So it's important that as we think about living significant lives, we think about how we want to impact the world. So those are the three things I'd really encourage people to think about their vision board. What you want to achieve, that's like the longest list normally. I'm like, okay, let's shift to who do you want to be? And then how do you want to change the world?
Yeah.
Now, when you put these visuals, I like to put it in a place where you can see it. That when you see it every day, you remind yourself, this is why I wake up. This is why I live. This is what my life is all about. And remember, the mental trigger. Research has shown that the brain can tell the difference between what's real and what's not real. The conviction with which you embrace information is what triggers in the mind.
Yeah.
So if you're so convinced about something, you're going to manifest it. Because your brain is convinced this is real, so we need to work around making it happen. So that's the power of a vision board. Instead of wishing all the things you want to do, put them on paper. Be bold enough to share it with your friends and family. That when they look at you, they're like, are you for real? They're like, yes. And all these famous people that we admire, when we hear their stories, most of them tell us about their dream. Yeah. They wrote it down, they put it somewhere, and now it's becoming a reality.
Yeah. So talking about Kyusa now.
Yeah.
Kyusa is a company you founded, which is running, transforming livelihoods, which is turning passions into scalable businesses, profitable, scalable businesses. So can you talk us through the inspiration behind it?
Wow. I like to say Kyusa is my firstborn, my first baby. And I normally tell mothers the same way you are passionate about your baby is the way entrepreneurs are passionate about their ideas. Like, don't mess with an entrepreneur's idea because they're going to shoot you down. So Kyusa is my first baby, and how Kyusa started, for me, I really didn't set out to, I want to start an organization, I want to do business. That wasn't my drive. I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be different. I wanted to do something significant. I wanted to change lives. I didn't know what and how that was going to be. And I will say every experience matters. I worked for 8 years, close to 8 years before I started Kyusa. And my working experience prepared me. Just understanding how does an organization work? How do you set it up? Policies, procedures, structures. All that exposure now came in handy. Why am I saying this? We do have a generation of young people that is coming straight from the institutions to starting their own business.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's a powerful thing, but there's something you're going to miss. Because you just don't know what it means to fit into a system. You cannot build a system you don't understand.
True.
So for me, that is where I value that experience because it prepared me. And so at the height of what would have been my career, I had a good job, I loved it, but I also began to question. There must be more to life. So for me, the question was, at the end of my life, what is going to count? Yes, I have a good job, it's paying me well, I'm living a good life, but is that all there is to life? I felt like there was more. So for me, it was a search for more that drew me to a place where I wanted to now think about what else can I do? And so at first, it was just an idea. Then I got an opportunity to go study social entrepreneurship, and that's where the shift happened. So this idea, this passion, I want to change the world, I want to impact people. And for 8 months, I was working with an idea of how do you want to do it? Like sharpen it, crystallize it, and define it. And so at the end of the day, that's how Kyusa was born. And so the idea came from, yes, I'd gone through personal experiences. I'm a former school dropout. That changed my life a lot. And today in Uganda, we have hundreds of young people every year drop out. I grew up on the outskirts of the city, so I understand what the urban slum community feels like. And seeing young people every day lose their lives, there's nothing that breaks my heart, Thomas, like each time I'm at the airport and there are these young people living. We know that a few of them make it, but many never make it. Many never make it. And the myth is the promised land is out there. And I'm thinking, we can change this. We can change this. There's a lot. And as a country, we are grappling with a high job deficiency. So in essence, we need more job creators than job seekers. And we don't have to wait for expatriates to come and get the jobs. That small business can be employing 3-4 people. the supplier, the border guy, the person who cleans, I don't know. All those are small jobs that we do not need expatriates to come and create. That's where my pain was coming from. And so I asked myself, what do I have? Yes, you have this passion, you have this burden, but what do I have? So I leveraged my experience, prior experience in all this training work that I've done to think about how can I empower a young person. Two, I leveraged my personal experience as well, my story. How did I build myself from a dropout to what I had become? And so that definitely began to take shape. And so with Kyusa, we work with, we call them marginalized, but it's out of school youth. We target low-income communities, urban slums or areas, and refugee camps. And so it's empowering young people to turn their ideas, their passions, into profitable businesses. Why do I talk about passion and business? Because research has shown that when you are passionate about something, your success rate is higher. What keeps you going when the going gets tough is because you love what you do.
True.
I'm an entrepreneur, and every business will have moments where you feel like, I am done. And the one thing that is going to keep you going is, why did you start? Why does it matter? Why do I care? So that's why I'm very passionate about helping people align with who they are, even as they get into the business space. And that we have seen a high success rate on that traction.
Wow. So on a last note, I would like to dig into that transition from passion to a scalable business. There is a guy called Jim Collins in his book called Good to Great. He talks about the HO concept, whereby you need to identify the things you're passionate about, choose those that you're good at, then out of the ones you're good at, choose the ones that pay well. So that's one strategy that people watching us can use, which I've also looked into. It's been helpful. But which other strategies can they use to transition their passions into profitable businesses?
I totally agree with that approach, because I'd like to say not every passion can become a profession. Not every passion can be profitable. There are things that you love and enjoy. I'll use my friends, the men. There are people who are passionate about soccer. You'll never be a footballer. Like, you're not going to become, you're not going to build a career around football. Maybe you're going to start a betting shop and make money. I don't know, right? So that's why, yes, we start with what are the things I love and care about. Then you go deeper into what are my skill set, my areas of competence, because people are not going to pay you for your idea. People are not going to pay you for a product or service you're offering. They're going to pay you for the value. And look, I love stories.
Please shoot.
So the whole example of if your parent was sick and you had to go for surgery, and there's a senior surgeon who has been at it for 30 years, they're diploma holder, right? They graduated like in 19 something. And then we have a fresh surgeon graduate from Harvard, fresh, no experience, but they're first class degree holder. Now there are two schools of thought. Someone would say, they have the latest technology, I would want them to operate my parent. Majority will actually go for that senior surgeon.
Sure.
Why? Because we're not paying for papers, we are paying for experience. So when you come to the marketplace, people will easily pay you for things where you have a track record. So that's why it's important to evaluate yourself and say, what am I good at? Not just what you think you're good at, but what people know you're good at. Those two are different. So am I good at it that my friends, my family, people will vouch for it? Then they'll be willing to pay for it. So again, it's from your passion. Then which of those passions you have a skill set that supports them. And then the last thing where you talk about can it earn you money is looking at the market opportunities. There are many things you can do, but you can decide and feel like, this is already congested, but this is a unique approach, I can go. And when we think about innovation, you don't always have to come up with a new idea. Sometimes you can look at what people are doing and make it better. Because one thing I realized about Ugandans, and I say this with all, politeness, there's this whole notion of people feel like if I don't produce it from the start, I'm doing nothing. Like the whole manufacturing and production, it's expensive. Ladies and gentlemen, it's expensive. The quickest business ideas are services. Because with a service, while you're spending, you're not doing whatever you're doing. I spend my time trying to close the deal, getting the market and supplying it. And so we need to rethink also how we do the things we do. So instead of saying, everybody's doing this, I don't want to do it, is there a way I can either build onto what they're doing or make it better, then I'm going to be paid for that value addition. So that the combination of those things is very important. And then, again, I'll say dream big, start small. Very important. Dream big, start small. Some of us are stuck. We are not starting because you have this big dream and you don't even know how to start it.
Yeah.
It's okay to dream big. Start small. The thing about starting small is that if you try something and it doesn't work, you can recover quickly. When you have started big and it doesn't work, my friend, we might need to pray and fast for you, or even get you admitted in some hospital to just, help you recover. So yes, as we think about professionalizing our passions, let's also be very wise in how we make the investment. Learn from other people. That's the other thing I'll say. Get a mentor, guys. Get a mentor. Get a coach, because there's so many things you can avoid by learning from someone else.
Yeah.
We are a very independent generation. Everybody wants to do it on their own. There is wisdom. There's wisdom. And one of the greatest sources of wisdom we haven't tapped into is the older generation. We think our parents know nothing about life.
Yeah.
That generation has a wealth of wisdom. A wealth of wisdom. I'll give you a very simple example. You know that for many people, your grandmother would treat you almost anything with just a herb from the copper. Jaja, I have a headache. So you go get that, and okay, I have a stomachache. You go get that. Now the thing is that many of our grandparents are dying with that wisdom. Today we are buying books about herbs that we have grown, seeing written by people in developed countries who come here and do research. That's what I mean about missing that wealth. How do we harvest wisdom, insight from the older generation that can help us make better? They may not understand the technology, but there's a lot they know about life that could save you a lot of mistakes.
Wow. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation just like I have, and I hope it can help you transition from being a reactive person to being very proactive and a victor in life. So Noeline, what is that last word you cannot leave Inspiration Rich today without saying to the people watching you?
I would say growth is a choice. Every day, I put up a post yesterday that said, every day, in every moment you're growing, you're either growing upward or you're regressing. So the question is, in which direction are you growing? I challenge you that the next time, before you celebrate your birthday, stop and take stock. How have I grown? How have I improved in the last 1 year? Because growth, you have to be intentional. Be intentional about your growth. And the last quote I'll give you is the fact that your profit margin will increase in proportion to your personal development.
Wow. I hope you've taken in all those words very well. So on a last note, Noeline, where can people find you? Those who are, I'm sure they're inspired with whatever you've said. They're like, I need more. So how can they reach out to you?
Quickest way to reach out to me if you want to maybe send an email or stuff is on my website, www.noelincirabo.com. If you are looking for inspiration, I have a YouTube channel with lots of instructional videos. Again, same names, Noeline Kirabo on YouTube or on any of the other social medias. Same names. I don't have an AKA, so it's called Noeline Kirabo. And I'll be more than happy to hear from you and to learn more about how this information is actually impacting your life.
Wow. It's been a pleasure having you watch us today. I hope this information has been super useful. Please, if you've not, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel such that you do not miss out any of the interviews we bring out. And you can also find the audio versions of these interviews on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Until next time, be blessed. So the book that I've been referring to throughout the interview is this, Find Your Significance by Noeline Kirabo, whom we've been talking with. It's super amazing. Many of the things that we've talked about can be found here. So if you need it, please, actually, you need it. I'm sure you need it. So please, you can find it on Amazon. You can find it at Urban Supermarket. That is for the people in Uganda. So grab the book, read so that you can be helped to discover your purpose and transition it into a profitable and scalable business.